Hi, my name's Eric. I'll be reading you selections from the e-edition of today's Cape Cod Times, and today's date is Friday, February 7th of 2025. We'll start with the weather, as we always do. Today, across the Cape and Islands, winds gusting past 50 miles an hour, but mostly sunny. High of 41, so some of the snow and ice that set conditions that were dangerous yesterday should be melted down pretty much by the end of today. Tonight, though, it will freeze. All that melt will turn to ice, partly cloudy and colder with a low of 21 expected. Some sun and clouds tomorrow, Saturday, high of 32, low of 27, and there may be some snow at night. In the overnight, 1 to 3 inches. Sunday, you'll wake up to a dusting. Morning rain. That should melt some of that snow that came in Saturday night. Decreasing clouds and again breezy, high of 37, low of 15 in the overnight. Things get chilly Sunday night into Monday, where the high will be 33 and a low in the overnight 21, but sunshine all day. Tuesday, mostly cloudy and snow late in the afternoon, high of 33 and a low of 29. The sun will rise today at 6:45 a.m. It'll set at 5:05 p.m. We'll have 10 hours and 19 minutes of daylight. The moon will rise at 11:50 a.m. and set at 3:11 a.m. Now heading to the front of the paper, where the news and the lottery results are kept. And we read these lottery results because somebody asked for them. If there's something you would like read to people who are blind or print disabled, you can email us at info@audiblelocalledger.org or call us at 508-539-2030 and we'll consider reading it. And if you miss any of the information that we share in our readings, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org, click on the Listen tab at the top of the page, and you'll find our podcasts, and you can click on the Audible Local Ledger Reads to the Blind and catch up on anything that you might have missed in the past week. We also keep a wide variety of periodicals and literature up there for your listening enjoyment. We keep those up there in perpetuity, so they don't go away. You'll always have something to listen to there at audiblelocalledger.org. And every Friday we publish the grocery guide, so you know what's on sale at the grocery store and the supermarket. All of that is free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org, a completely disability compliant website. Now, for the latest lottery results, we go to masslottery.com because the Cape Cod Times goes to press too early to give you those latest results. For the numbers game of Thursday, February 6th, in the midday drawing, the results were 1, 3, 8, 2. Again, yesterday's midday drawing results, 1, 3, 8, 2. In the evening drawing of the numbers game for Thursday, February 6th, the results were 3, 7, 0, 8. Again, last night's numbers game results in the evening, 3, 7, 0, 8. Mass cash results for Thursday, February 6th, 13, 22, 25, 30, and 34. And Lucky for Life rounds out our lottery results for Thursday, February 6th with 18, 21, 32, 39, 41, with 7, the bonus number. Good luck to all who play, and remember us if you win. Now, from the cover of today's Cape Cod Times, Barnstable plans audit of 14 dangerous intersections, keeping it local here at the Audible Local Ledger. This is reported by Susan Vaughn. The town of Barnstable has been awarded 2 grants totaling $315,000 to conduct road safety audits of 14 high-risk intersections for vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. The aim is to reduce serious injuries and fatalities. Barnstable Town Council on January 30th agreed to accept the grants, $252,000 from the Federal Highway Administration Safe Streets and Roads for All program, and $63,000 from the State Department of Transportation. 2 of the locations are on state roads. The audits are first steps in planning improvements in corridors with safety problems, Barnstable Planning and Development Director James Kupfer said. The Planning Department collaborated with the state agency to gather crash data on cars, bicycles, and pedestrians, and the Cape Cod Commission for traffic volumes to help identify the 14 intersections, Kupfer said. The town and the two agencies have a history of collaborating on road safety, including other safety audits, according to the grant application background. We're proceeding with accepting the grants and looking for a contract, Kupfer said. He hopes to have the contract with a traffic engineer consultant in place by the summer to do the audits and then complete them by June of 2027, which is the grant deadline. Most of the identified intersections are in Hyannis, and they're well known to the public, Kupfer said. Those include High School Road at South Street and West Main Street at Lincoln Road, and another challenging one is Old Stage Road and Oak Street, he said. The others under town jurisdiction to be studied include High School Road at Main Street, South Street at Pleasant Street, Stevens Street at Bassett Lane, Barnstable Road at Center Street, Charles Street, North Street at Stevens Street, Main Street from Camp Street to Center Street and Old Colony Road, Yarmouth Road at Old Yarmouth Road and Marr Road, North Street from west of Winter Street to C Street Extension, Finney's Lane at Old Strawberry Hill Road, Old Stage Road at Oak Street, and at Old Falmouth Road. The areas under state jurisdiction are Falmouth Road and South County Road, and Falmouth Road from Old Stage Road to Finney's Lane. The work takes a lot of collaboration with town departments like police and fire, public works, etc. that can help identify known problems, Kupfer said. The audits require about 5 months per site, including preparation, scheduling coordination, site observation, and reports. The audits will be 14 standalone reports that look at the intersections and identify safety concerns and recommend safety enhancements, he said. The audits can provide an opportunity to obtain grants for the safety upgrades, he said. Susan Vaughn writes about transportation and other local community issues that affect Cape Cod residents and visitors. Just a little bit more on the weather. Dangerous mix of snow and ice coats the Northeast by Doyle Rice and John Bacon. A wall of snow, ice, and rain was sweeping across the Northeast on Thursday, the first in a series of storms forecast to wallop much of the nation's northern tier over the next several days. The wintry mix that turned to rain early Thursday in this suburb of Washington, D.C., this was reported from Arlington, Virginia, was still serving ice, snow, and sleet in cities and towns including Akron, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, New York, Philadelphia, and New York City. Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island faced a winter weather advisory all day yesterday, and total snow and sleet accumulations of up to 4 inches were expected, the National Weather Service said. AccuWeather senior meteorologist Tom Kynes told USA Today 3 to 6 inches was likely north of Boston in places such as Concord, New Hampshire, and Bangor, Maine. After the storm comes a brief respite. For most folks, Friday's a great day, and the sun is out, Kynes said. But then another storm comes rolling east from the Dakotas all the way to New England, he said. Snow will start in the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan on Friday night. Many areas will see up to a foot of snow by Saturday night, Kynes said. South of that snow, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio could experience icing, he said. By Saturday evening, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia will be hit with rain or snow. And as the storm heads east, a good chunk of New York and New England will get at least 6 inches of snow, he said. According to Weather.com meteorologist Chris Dolce, snow and a stripe of ice seem likely to develop by Saturday, from the northern plains and Great Lakes to parts of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. The Weather Service said sleet and freezing rain are likely across portions of the mid-Atlantic, New York, and southern New England, which could be hazardous. The most significant risk of icing on Saturday is in northern Ohio and across parts of southwestern, central, and northern Pennsylvania, according to AccuWeather. Boston might hit the jackpot over the next 2 weeks with multiple snowfall events that could easily add up to 2 feet or more, warned meteorologist Ryan Mao on social media platform X. A parade of winter systems is forecast to slam parts of the Midwest, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic with dangerous travel conditions through the middle of next week. Kynes said the snow line will likely fall on Pennsylvania's southern border, but a lot of things can happen between now and then, he said. The system is still out in the Pacific. Long-term computer model forecast guidance is hinting this active winter storm pattern might persist in the Midwest and East next week, Dolce said. AccuWeather senior meteorologist Joe Lundberg said from late Monday into Wednesday, a storm will originate in Texas and move to the mid-Atlantic coast, with a larger swath of snow and ice to the north of its path and the potential of heavy rain and severe weather across the south into the southeast. Moving to the Cape and Islands section as we keep it local. Here at the Ledger, we read all of the local news we can find before we move to the national, because you can get the national news elsewhere. Commercial TV, commercial radio might fill you in on sports and some of the bigger topics that are being spoken of nationally and internationally. But what we're trying to do is fill in the blanks on what's going on in your community, best as we can from the newspapers that write about your community. Critical Learn to Swim Lessons in New YMCA Plan by Heather McCarran. YMCA Cape Cod is officially closed on the purchase of 6.16 acres of land from Christ Lutheran Church at 487 Brick Kiln Road in Falmouth, a significant step for the nonprofit. The YMCA's new project, the Don and Dottie Smith YMCA, will be a 68,000 square foot facility that will be constructed behind the church. It'll be the first YMCA branch ever in the town, and just the second on Cape Cod, with the other in West Barnstable. This purchase represents the next step in fulfilling the community's goal of having a full YMCA facility on the Upper Cape, said YMCA Cape Cod President and CEO Stacy Pugh. Linda Foster, president of Christ Lutheran Church, said the church is excited to partner with the YMCA through the sale of the property. Our shared values and visions will open opportunities for all ages in our community, Foster said. The new facility will include a wellness center with weight training and exercise equipment, full-size basketball court with an elevated walking track, an aquatic center featuring 2 swimming pools, multi-purpose spaces for classes and programs, a community room with a kitchen, a dedicated childcare area, and a children's adventure room. Outdoor activity areas will also be incorporated into the design. The land buy is a significant step for this project, said Pugh. The project has been a long time coming, she noted, with the idea for a Falmouth branch building born out of a community needs assessment in 2011. We always say that the Y can't be pushed into a community, it has to be pulled in by a community. So that means a lot of effort by a lot of volunteers and passionate people who want to make it happen, Pugh said. Total cost of the project is $35 million, with nearly $26 million already raised. Among the major contributors are local business owner Don Smith, his wife Pamela Burks Smith, who last fall pledged $10 million in honor of Don's late parents, Don and Dottie Smith, for whom the facility will be named. The remaining funds will come from private donations, private foundations, and some grants. Christ Lutheran Church subdivided its lot to create the 6.1-acre plot. The church and YMCA agreed on a shared parking arrangement and easement. Right now, there's a lot at the back that's mostly a gravel lot. We're going to pave the whole lot and connect everything between the church and the Y, Pugh explained. There will be dedicated parking for both, and some shared parking. Existing YMCA programs in Falmouth. YMCA Cape Cod already runs several youth programs in Falmouth, including child care at North Falmouth Congregational Church and Falmouth Hospital, and before and after school programs at 4 schools. During the summer, the Y offers camp programs at 4 of the town's schools and collaborates with the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and Marine Biological Laboratory for a science-focused camp. Additionally, the Y partners with organizations such as churches, libraries, fire departments, and schools to deliver summer food programs for kids. The organization also operates a 75-acre summer camp on Lawrence Pond in Sandwich. We bus kids from all over Cape Cod to that camp, Pugh said. The new YMCA branch will address community needs identified in the 2011 assessment, such as swimming pools, which Pugh highlighted as critical for kids and everyone to learn to swim, especially in a place surrounded by water like Cape Cod. We can't do swimming lessons and all the great aquatic programming without a building with a pool, Pugh said. The facility will also offer a safe place for teens to come and wellness opportunities for the entire community. The building's location next to the high school is a bonus, she noted. It's just going to be perfect for teens to walk to the Y after school. While current before and after school programs and early childhood programs will remain at their existing locations, Pugh anticipates that the new facility will eventually host the Y's summer camp program. The YMCA is awaiting final site plan approval from the Falmouth Planning Board, which could come as soon as next week. Then a Board of Health approval is needed, and then approval from the Zoning Board. But we don't anticipate any big challenges. It's just a matter of moving through the process, she said. The Cape Cod Commission gave its approval for the project in August of 2024. Pugh said the goal is to break ground once we reach $28 million in fundraising, and right now we're at just over $26 million, so it's within our reach. Heather McCarron writes about climate change, environment, energy, and science, in addition to news in Barnstable and Brewster. The other story in the Cape and Islands, state must shoulder interest costs of $2.5 billion accounting error, by Chris Lisinski of the State House News Service. An employer-funded account will repay most of the money Massachusetts owes to the federal government due to a Baker administration accounting error. But state budget writers might also need to find hundreds of millions of dollars over the next decade to cover the interest. Governor Maura Healey in January announced the state reached an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor to settle a Baker-era mistake in which Massachusetts paid $2.5 billion in unemployment benefits using federal funds that should have been deployed elsewhere. Under the agreement, Massachusetts will pay $2.034 billion to the federal government from the employer-funded Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund and $73 million in back interest, which will instead come from the state's general fund. There's a third piece to the puzzle. Interest on the remaining balance owed will continue to accrue at a 3.12% rate, a rate Healey administration officials say they negotiated down from the initial 5%. With more than $2 billion in principal debt, the new interest charges could be substantial. A specimen schedule laid out in the written agreement between Massachusetts and the U.S. Department of Labor, which was acquired by the News Service, estimates that the interest payments could total more than $409 million between 2025 and 2034. Those interest bills are likely to create a challenge for state budget writers who are facing a suite of other growing cost drivers at a time when tax collections are softening. Legislative leaders might now need to find tens of millions of dollars per year to cover the interest owed. The Healey administration and the U.S. Department of Labor reached a settlement to rectify this frustrating mistake made by the Baker administration. The House will work to honor that settlement over the next decade, Ana Vivas, a spokesperson for House Speaker Ron Mariano, said. A spokesperson for Senate President Karen Spilka declined to comment. Massachusetts must make the first annual settlement payment by December 1st of 2025. That money will come from the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund, which relies on employer taxes, and the settlement agreement envisions 10 equal payments of $203 million per year. Healey deputies said businesses will not see any additional impact on the taxes they pay to fund the unemployment benefits system until at least the end of 2026. The first interest payment is not due until December 1st of 2026. The settlement agreement suggests about $70 million might be due in interest in the first year, with declining annual amounts afterward as the debt decreases. That portion of the repayment will need to come directly from the state. A Healey administration official said Massachusetts, by law, cannot use the employer-funded Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund to cover interest. John Hurst, president of the Retailers Association of Massachusetts, called that good news. I think at the very least, this was the state's error, he said. The claims themselves were triggered by government, and the interest was due to state government errors, so they should pick up the interest charges. The problem dates back to former Governor Charlie Baker, whom Healey succeeded in 2023. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Massachusetts and other states faced an unprecedented surge in demand for unemployment benefits as businesses closed their doors, in some cases to comply with mandatory public health precautions, and they laid off workers. At some point during the crisis, the Bay State used federal pandemic relief dollars to pay unemployment benefits, which should have been covered through the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. The state hired audit firm KPMG to review its financial records in 2021. According to the settlement, while auditors found that the state did not deposit returned payments or fraudulent claims into the correct accounts, they did not identify any other amounts overdrawn from federal pandemic relief funds. A state annual financial report for fiscal year 2021 was consistent with KPMG's findings, the settlement said. But while working on the following fiscal year's report, officials in the Massachusetts Comptroller's Office later discovered Massachusetts drew nearly $2.5 billion from federal pandemic money to cover jobless aid. Healy disclosed the error in the summer of 2023. Healy officials negotiated the settlement with the federal government and reached a final deal shortly before President Joe Biden turned the Oval Office over to President Donald Trump. During those talks, Massachusetts officials identified hundreds of millions of dollars that were, in fact, properly spent using federal funds, according to the settlement. The parties agreed on a final debt of $2.034 billion, nearly $500 million less than the overdraw, plus $73 million in back interest and a 3.12% interest rate going forward. Healy's team said if all penalties, fees, and back interest applied, the total amount owed might have exceeded $3 billion. Some business groups were frustrated by the settlement, noting that employers already face higher taxes to cover pandemic-era UI debts, unemployment insurance debts, and will now be on the hook for another $2 billion over the next decade. But Evan Horowitz, executive director of the Center for State Policy Analysis at Tufts University, argued that if the Baker administration didn't make an error, businesses still would have been responsible to cover the $2.5 billion in claims. The net outcome, he said, will result in less money paid out from the employer-funded unemployment insurance trust fund. I keep thinking of that Monopoly card. Bank error in your favor, collect $200. This is a state accounting error in business's favor. Collect $400 million, Horowitz said. He later added, nobody's happy to find out that your mortgage company remembers that you owe them money. It's still not a justification for feeling they should have been able to get out of that debt. Healy pledged while announcing the settlement to launch a push for reforms to the unemployment system, which employers have long argued saddles them with excessive costs. She tasked Labor Secretary Lauren Jones and Administration and Finance Secretary Matthew Gorskowicz with leading a review and crafting recommendations. Horowitz stressed that businesses are still in a terrible position, and he said lawmakers might have faced more pressure to enact systemic reforms several years ago if they had a better sense of the full amount that was owed. Let's be clear, it's a small win and the system is broken, and taxes on businesses are going to go up, he said. Keeping it local with school sports, Monomoy Mashpee nabs first ever division title by Alan Gunn in South Dennis. The Monomoy Mashpee boys hockey team celebrated like champions after it secured its first Cape and Islands Lighthouse division title in program history. Congratulations. The Sharks, who are 10-7-0, 4-1-0 in the division, who beat Dennis Yarmouth Cape Tech Cape Cod Academy 7-4 on Wednesday at Tony Kent Arena, can finish with at least a share of the division title. They can win it outright with a victory or tie against the first-time reigning champions Nantucket on February 12th. That's their plan. It's huge, Sharks forward Casey Hughes said. It was a big jump from last year to this year, and we kept on climbing the mountain. The Sharks have earned their opportunities this season and are happy to be successful after all their ups and downs. For us, it's not just about the years past, it's about the success happening right now. You always want to be playing your best hockey at the end of the season, and we're doing that right now, said the coach. It took Max Cronin just 8 minutes of game time and .328 between his first and third goals to notch a hat trick that helped the Sharks set the tone and establish an early 3-0 lead. It's a big scoring night for Nauset in a victory with a high school roundup by Adam Kirkchin. With a 7-1 victory over Martha's Vineyard Wednesday night, the Nauset boys hockey team clinched at least a share of the Cape and Islands Atlantic Division Championship. The Warriors, 14-0 and 1 tie, topped the Vineyarders, 8-6 and 2 ties, and can win the league crown outright with a victory over Barnstable in the last game of the season. The Warriors are currently 5-0 in the league. Nauset's Logan Poulin had a hat trick and an assist. Colin Ward scored twice, Logan Miller had a goal, and Drew Reeves scored his first varsity goal. In other high school sports action, it was in boys hockey. Somerset Berkeley 5, Bourne 2, St. John Paul II 3, Nantucket 2, Falmouth 3, Natick 3, Sandwich 3, East Bridgewater 1. Monomoy Mashpee 7, Dennis Yarmouth Cape Cod Academy 4. Upper Cape 6, Tri-County Register Voke 2. And in girls hockey, it was Martha's Vineyard 6, Barnstable Upper Cape Tech 0. It was Falmouth 5, Marshfield 4. Archbishop Williams 2, Sandwich 0. In boys basketball, Monomoy 55, Nantucket 52. St. John Paul II 81, Falmouth Academy 45. Bristol Plymouth 63, Upper Cape 49. And Wareham 52, Mashpee 47. In girls basketball, Upper Cape 46, Bristol Aggie 34. It was Sturgis West 25, Rising Tide 11. And Hanover 44, Falmouth 26. And we'll close with a little bit of advice from Ask Carolyn. Dear Carolyn, I increasingly feel like my life is on hold until my wife and I decide finally whether to have a third baby. We always wanted 2 children. We have 2 boys who are in elementary school. I considered us finished, but my wife dealt with some disappointment about not having a girl. I would have liked a girl too, but didn't feel as strongly about it as she did. Sometimes her sadness has really seemed intense, such as when friends welcome baby girls. A couple of years ago, she opened a conversation about possibly having a third baby. I reminded her of all the reasons we initially decided to stop at 2, which are still in play, but I didn't close the door. And now I regret not doing so because we've been locked into indecision since then. We want to buy a new house, but she won't commit until we settle this question. Same thing with upgrading our cars and getting rid of our old baby gear. We can't take a family vacation to Disney World yet because then there's a possibility our future child would have missed it. I don't want to just slam my foot down and close the issue because it makes her so sad when I do. But is there a way to keep our lives moving forward until the decision's eventually made? On hold, it's signed. Dear On Hold, this limbo problem isn't just snagging the house in Disney. It's so much bigger than that. 2 little boys are going through life as disappointments to their mother. You don't say as much, and I'm not saying it to rip into your wife, but it's there, right? It's an Alfred Hitchcock gut punch, where you never see the fist, the gut, or the ghost of the little girl, but everyone leaves in pain. Sorry for the dusty cultural reference. We advice columnists take flack for always recommending therapy. Okay, it's me, I do. But this is such a question for therapy that I'm devoting my answer to why you 2 need to go. Snow day for haters, you can skip to something else. Your wife's grief for the daughter she doesn't have is keeping her heart, her emotional center of gravity, outside your home. And with this other possible, maybe future, my little girl, third child, who may be another boy, by the way. And if it's a girl, will the boys ever get even her distracted attention again? Her grief is significant, and it may not have needed its own therapeutic work even if you had closed the door. Let yourself off the hook. Something else about her attachment to the idea of a girl, which I'll type to you, but she'll have to come to herself, ergo therapy again. An actual baby girl would have been herself, always. Never what your wife imagined she would be. So your wife would have, had her heart broken regardless for wanting so badly or envisioning something that was never in her control. And she could have broken her daughter's heart too over and over if she didn't accept her for who she was, or worse, resented her for not being as craved. The greatest gift we can give children is our openness to them. So, therapy, for your wife's grief, but for everyone's sake. When managed, it won't hold her back from the family or the life that she's got. And with that excellent advice, we've come to the end of our reading of the Cape Cod Times, dated February 7th of 2025. This is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other. Remember our veterans, especially those we've lost today. Bye for now.